It happened in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Ohio. One of those places where houses have white fences and neighbors wave good morning like everything is perfect. But behind one of those neatly trimmed lawns, behind closed doors, lived a woman named Emily Harper. For over a decade, she endured the pain, the fear, and the silence. Her husband, Mark, was charming in public, respected at work, but at home, he became someone else, someone cruel. Everyone thought they were the perfect couple. No one knew what Emily was going through, not until the day she decided enough was enough, and set a plan in motion that would change everything. For years, Emily kept a journal, not just to survive, but to remember. Every bruise she covered with makeup, every lie she told to friends, every apology Mark whispered after another night of rage. She wrote it all down, not out of habit, but out of necessity. In the beginning, it was for herself. Later, it became her insurance. She didn't tell anyone. Not the police, not her parents, not even her closest friend from college. She knew how the system worked or didn't work for women like her, women whose husbands looked good on paper. She'd seen it too many times. She needed more than a story. She needed proof. So Emily started collecting evidence. She hid a voice recorder inside a fake book on the living room shelf. She saved threatening text messages, printed out emails, even took photos of marks on her skin with a burner phone she kept hidden inside a box of tampons, knowing Mark would never look there. But none of it would matter if she didn't survive long enough to use it. The turning point came one rainy Thursday night, when Mark came home drunk. Something had gone wrong at work. She could tell from the slam of the front door. He didn't speak at first, just paced. She could feel the storm building like she always did. But that night, something in him snapped, and something in her did too. She survived the night, barely. But the next morning, while he was still passed out on the couch, she packed a small bag, took the burner phone, and drove straight to a woman's shelter an hour away. That was just the beginning. What Emily did next wasn't just about escape. It was about justice, about taking back the years he stole from her, about making sure he would never hurt anyone else again. The shelter was quiet. Tucked away behind an old church, it didn't look like much from the outside. But to Emily, it felt like the first breath after years underwater. The woman who greeted her, Maria, didn't ask too many questions. Just offered her a bed, a hot meal, and something she hadn't had in years: safety. Over the next few days, Emily didn't sleep much. Her body ached, but her mind was wide awake. She replayed every moment of the past 10 years, trying to make sense of it all and also planning. She didn't just want to run. She wanted him to pay. With Maria's help, she met with a lawyer who specialized in domestic abuse cases. Emily laid everything out: the journal, the audio files, the photos, the texts. The lawyer's expression stayed calm, but her eyes said everything. "You've been building a case for a long time," she said softly. "You might actually bring him down." But Mark wasn't stupid. When Emily didn't come home, he called, and called, and called. Then the text started. "Where the hell are you? You think you can leave me? If you talk to anyone, you'll regret it." He didn't know she was already talking, not just to the lawyer, but to a reporter, someone she'd found through a domestic abuse survivor forum. A woman who had exposed cops, politicians, even CEOs. Emily wasn't just after justice. She wanted the truth known. But she also knew that truth had a price. 2 days after the interview, the shelter received a call from a blocked number. No one spoke on the other end, just heavy breathing. That night, someone slashed the tires on the shelter van. The staff told Emily they could move her to a different state, somewhere safe, start over with a new name. But Emily didn't want to disappear. She didn't want to hide. She wanted him to. She looked at her lawyer. What happens if I go public? The lawyer paused. He'll come after you, but if we're smart, we'll be ready. Emily looked down at her journal, worn, torn, stained with years of pain. Then she said quietly, "Then let's not wait. I want everyone to know what he really is." 3 weeks later, the article went live. It wasn't just a blog post. It was a full feature, front page of an investigative magazine with the headline, "Behind Closed Doors, The Double Life of Mark Harper." Emily had used her real name. The story detailed everything: Mark's violence, the emotional torment, the recordings, the photos, the timeline. There were quotes from the lawyer, statements from shelter staff, and even blurry screenshots from the audio clips. His voice shouting obscenities. His real voice. Within hours, the article exploded online. Comments flooded in, some with support, some with disbelief, some full of venom. Mark's company issued a cold statement. "We are aware of the allegations and are investigating internally." But Emily knew what that meant. They were buying time. That same night, she received an email from a stranger. No subject, no name, just 4 words. "You made a mistake." She showed it to her lawyer, who looked concerned. "Could be him. Could be someone trying to scare you. Either way, we need to tighten security." But Emily wasn't afraid anymore. She was angry, and that anger kept her moving. The next day, she agreed to go on camera. A local news station arranged a sit-down interview in a neutral location. The reporter asked her if she was afraid. Emily paused, then looked straight into the lens. "I used to be, but fear is how he controlled me. Telling my story is how I take that power back." It aired that evening. 20 minutes later, Mark Harper was seen leaving his office building. Cameras caught him shoving a reporter and speeding off in his car. He hadn't made a statement yet. But he would. Because the police, under new public pressure, reopened an old report Emily had filed 5 years ago. Back then, she had dropped the complaint. Now, with the new evidence, it was back on the table, and Mark was officially under investigation. Still, Emily knew this wasn't over. That night, she found a dead bird on the doorstep of the safe house. Its wings had been clipped. No one saw who left it. The next morning, Emily walked into the courthouse with her head high. This wasn't just about her anymore. The courtroom was cold, sterile, lit with the kind of fluorescent lights that made everything look drained. Emily sat next to her lawyer at the plaintiff's table, her hands steady, but her heartbeat louder than ever. This was the preliminary hearing, just the beginning. Mark sat across the room, clean-shaven, tailored suit, the same smug mask he wore in public for years. But his eyes told a different story. He looked rattled, not destroyed but cracking. He pled not guilty, of course. The prosecutor laid out the basic charges: assault, intimidation, destruction of evidence, and a pending count of witness tampering. The judge listened, stone-faced. Emily could feel the tension in every breath of the room. But that wasn't what shook her. What shook her was the man sitting behind Mark, A sharply dressed stranger, mid-50s, silver hair, expensive watch, watching Emily like he already knew her. When their eyes met, he gave her the faintest nod and smiled. After the hearing, she asked her lawyer, "Who was that?" Her lawyer frowned. "I've seen him before. He's not part of Mark's legal team, but I think he's funding it." "Why?" Emily asked. The answer came the next day when the second article dropped. It wasn't about Mark. It was about Mark's father, a former state senator, known for his family values platform, quietly retired years ago after a scandal that never quite made it to the public. Emily read every word. Her jaw clenched as she realized this wasn't just about an abusive husband anymore. This was about a family legacy built on silence, money, and control. Mark was a monster, yes, but someone made him that way, and someone was trying to protect that investment. That night, her burner phone rang again. No caller ID. A voice on the other end. "Calm. Male. You've had your moment. End it now or we will." Emily didn't reply. She hung up, then opened her journal to a fresh page and wrote, "I was wrong. This goes deeper than I thought." Emily sat in the quiet of her motel room, the journal open beside her, TV flickering in the background. The phone call still echoed in her mind. End it now or we will. But fear no longer paralyzed her, fueled her. The next morning, she met with the reporter again, the one who broke the first story. This time, she brought more. Old campaign donations, sealed police reports connected to Mark's father, names of other women who had filed complaints years ago, only to have them vanish. Emily had become more than a survivor. She was now a whistleblower. The third article dropped like a bomb. The House of Harper, Abuse, Cover UPS, and the Cost of Silence. It painted a dark, detailed portrait of a powerful family that had built a public image on lies, all while privately crushing anyone who spoke out. Emily wasn't the only victim, just the first to fight back and refuse to disappear. Within 48 hours, the story went national. Senators distanced themselves from Mark's father. Advocacy groups rallied behind Emily. The district attorney's office announced a full investigation. And most shocking of all, 2 other women came forward. One had dated Mark in college. The other had worked for his father's campaign. Their stories were eerily similar. Emily watched it all unfold from a distance, not as revenge, but as justice finally waking up. Then came the real trial. It lasted 6 weeks. Emily testified, calm, steady. The courtroom hung on her every word. Mark's defense tried to discredit her, called her unstable, vindictive, attention-seeking. But the evidence was too strong, the truth too loud. In the final week, Mark took the stand. He cracked. Under pressure, he admitted to some mistakes, then tried to blame his upbringing, the pressure, the alcohol. But it was too late. His mask was gone. The jury saw him. When the verdict came in, guilty on all counts, Emily didn't cry. She just exhaled. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Microphones reached for her. She didn't say much, just one sentence. "I told the truth, and I'm still here." A year later, Emily published her memoir, titled Still Here. It became a bestseller. She now works with survivors of abuse, helping them build their own cases their own safety, their own voices. She still writes in her journal, but now the pages are filled with beginnings, not endings.